So just like rolling stock, HO scale vehicles or any scale vehicles need to be weathered before you put them on your layout. Right out of the box, of course, they're too shiny. They look like plastic toys because that's exactly what they're made of. And there's a couple of steps we can do to weather them to make them look a little bit more realistic. Today we're going to weather a 58 Plymouth Fury, and it's from a company called Brekina. It's a nicely detailed model. They make a bunch of HO scale vehicles and trucks from the 50s to the 70s to the 80s. So you'll definitely find something for the era you're modeling. So let's get to weathering this thing. Okay, the first thing we need to do to get this car ready is take our very new blade on our X-Acto knife and retrace all the panel and seam lines. This is going to help when we put a wash on it to make them pop out a little bit better. So go very slowly so you don't slip. So I just remembered to put on a rubber glove, at least for this hand. I'm going to have to handle it a little bit with this other hand, but it just helps keep the fingerprints down, the grease from your skin getting onto the vehicle, which might show up later when we weather it. So I am tracing the seam line here between the door and the quarter panel. The next thing we want to do is remove the chassis from the bottom. It actually comes off pretty easily. And then at the same time, you can pop out the glass, which is great. And now we just have our body to weather for now. We can also, while we're at it, I'm pretty guilty of having a lot of driverless cars on my layout, so I'm going to find a prizer figure to jam in here, and once we put the cover back on, he'll be in there. So this is a good opportunity to use a figure that you probably weren't going to use at all, that might have come in a figure set you have. This is a guy riding a horse, which I probably won't use. And you don't need to have him be a seated figure. You just need to see the idea of a person in there. It's better than none at all. So I am just going to chop his legs off. And I think that might be the right spot. And he'll probably just go right there. And you want to make sure that you have enough clearance when you put the body back on that his head fits, and it looks like it does. So that'll work. So I've got a bit of fast drying CA glue here. And I'm using a tweezer, and I dip some glue here. Now we can just get him in place. Make sure he fits, and he does. And now we need to spray this with a matte finish. So the matte varnish I'm using is from Army Painter. This is matte varnish, and it's so far it's one of my favorites. It really does dry flat. Some varnishes, for some reason, matte varnishes dry with like a satin finish. You should give this one a try. So my next step is to highlight these lines that we cut with our knife, and I'm going to use a panel liner. This is black panel liner from Tamiya. And it's nice because it comes with a brush already attached to the cap. And I'm going to run it down each line. And it might bleed out a little bit, but that's okay. We're going to wipe away some of the excess after. But you can see how it starts to really define those panels even better than just with the lines cut with the knife. So right now, if you wanted to, you could add a coat of varnish and almost call this finished. It's not a rusted car, but it's a worn car, and that would be pretty nice on the layout. Might have to do some more to the roof. But we're going to go a little further and add some rust and keep going. So I'm going to use, this is a Vallejo acrylic color. This is Hull Red, which is basically looks like a primer red. And I've got it in my little tray here. I've got a very small brush. This is a, what is it? A 3-0. I'm going to start making some chips at the edge of the vehicle where we think paint would just come off. And we'll start from the front. So while you're doing this, take a look at some reference photos. Just type in rusted car, or this is a 58 Plymouth Fury, so look up rusted Plymouth Fury. Every car rusts differently, so you can use a reference and kind of guide you. Or you could just keep going about this kind of pattern where edges just get chipped away. So the Hull Red is basically the primer that's underneath our blue paint, and it's not actually the rust, so we still need to add rust. So I'm going to use dark rust. This is from Ammo by MIG, and it's a little bit more orange. You can see here in our little palette, the one on the right is much more orange and not less brown. So we're going to apply that directly on top of the stuff we've already chipped. It doesn't have to be an exact match, but now the rust will start coming through the primer coat and it'll add a little bit more depth. So now we need to rust the roof more thoroughly, and I'm going to use an enamel paint from AK. This is Light Rust Wash. It's a very transparent wash because we don't want to completely obliterate the roof. We want to see the white show through. So I'm using some mineral spirits over here, right there. So I'm going to dip my brush back and forth until I get a transparent wash that I'm comfortable with. So I'm going to test it here, and you can see it's very transparent. You can still see the white of the plate here, and that's enough for me. We're just going to brush this on and kind of almost blot it because we want it to be irregular in different spots, heavier in others. We're just doing this for the roof. You could do the entire car, but in some photos, we've seen pictures where the roof is just kind of rusting further along than the rest of the body. Now we could try the trim on the sides. Just a little bit of rust. And that kind of takes that down. And if you get too much over here, we can get it off our brush and just draw it back off with the brush. The brush just kind of sucks it back in. So it's just a matter of you not using too much, so you don't have to do that. So when looking at it now, it does look like it could use some more rust. So we're going to use the same technique that we did on the roof, but I'm going to just make it a little bit lighter, or if it's too dark, I can always wipe it off with mineral spirits. But it just gives us a little bit more of a rusty tint to the whole vehicle and blends everything in. So we're still seeing plenty of blue showing through. It's not obliterating the paint job. So we're going to jump back to the chassis for a minute and use our panel liner just on the rims of the wheels. So I've got the windshield on this piece of tape, so I want to make it so the wipers have cleaned a dirty window, and I'm going to kind of have to fake it as far as what the shape will be, but I'm going to cut a piece of tape that mimics the path of the wiper. So I'm just lining it up for the size, and I'm going to just imagine a big curve here, and then cut this piece of tape out. Hopefully it's close enough. And then I'll cut a left-hand version of the same thing. So now we can remove the tape. And we've got a windshield that was cleaned by the wipers. So now we can get this back together. Start with the windshield. So I hope you give some of these techniques a try. If nothing else, just spray your vehicle with a matte finish to kill the shine and add some of that panel liner to pop the panels out. And of course, if you want to go further, try all the rusting techniques. And I want to thank our Patreon subscribers here. If you want some more content, some more behind the scenes information and extra tips and techniques, kit previews, join us on Patreon, and you'll find out some more information every day. We post every day, sometimes twice a day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.